You're watching the Sports and Political channel of LB. If you're not a subscriber to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. All right, man, let's get down to business. So, the Brooklyn Nets go into Boston last night, and what seemed look like another Boston blowout win against the Brooklyn Nets. Well, the Brooklyn Nets had other ideas as they, led by Mikal Bridges, who dropped 38 last night, turned the tables on the Boston Celtics and leave the TD Bank Garden with a 115-105 win. Now, Boston has hit somewhat of a rough patch. They have lost 3 out of the last 4 games. And this is not a good look. They are clearly number 2 in the East behind the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks have a game and a half lead on the Boston Celtics for the number 1 spot, and the Milwaukee Bucks will go for 17 games in a row when they host the Philadelphia 76ers later on tonight. But in this fast-paced era in the NBA, you cannot afford to take your foot off the gas. Look, I've seen cases to where teams had like a 36-point lead. Matter of fact, it was the Wizards. They had a 36-point lead on the Los Angeles Clippers at home a year or two ago, and they let the Clippers come all the way back and beat the Washington Wizards, right? How do you blow a 28-point lead if you're the Boston Celtics? How? How do you do that? So you built this big old lead and you thought you broke the will of the Brooklyn Nets. And you thought you could just go coast your way to victory like you did the last time. Now, for context, right? This win by the Brooklyn Nets snapped a 10-game losing streak to the Boston Celtics. So is a game like this going to be a springboard for the Brooklyn Nets that will allow them to uh, go up the East standings? Only time will tell. But this is a really good win for the Brooklyn Nets, and this is a really bad loss for the Boston Celtics. That the Boston Celtics had came off a win at home on Wednesday night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jason Tatum went completely nuclear in that game. Jaylen Brown had a mediocre game, to say the least. And if Boston's going to go anywhere, and if they're going to do anything, those two guys need to be on the same page, right? Now, the Brooklyn Nets themselves had a 4-game losing streak entering that game. And like I said, they were down by as much as 28 points in the second quarter. They were able to erase that deficit in the third. Early part of the third quarter, they erased that deficit, and then they just turned on the gas, right? 115-105. And of course, the Boston Celtics crowd is left stunned, left disappointed, left with a whole bunch of questions about what's up with this team. This team ain't as good as we thought they were. All this other stuff. This is the largest comeback win in the Brooklyn Nets franchise. And this was the largest comeback win in the season. Because previously, just a week ago, right? Not even a week ago, it was like last Sunday, where the Lakers came back from 27 down to beat the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Jaylen Brown led the Boston Celtics with 35 points. Jason Tatum had 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. But he went 0 for 8 from the 3. And Mikal Bridges, man, Mikal Bridges is the star in the making for the Brooklyn Nets. This is a guy who plays on both sides of the court. Not this nonsense where, oh, well, I'm only good on one side of the ball, and then I'm going to get all these praise and all this adulation from the media, right? No, Mikal Bridges play on both sides of the ball. I don't know where this whole concept of, well, he's a two-way player. Well, last time I checked, basketball is only played two ways, on the offensive side and the defensive side. And you got to be able to do well on both those aspects or elements of the game. I don't know where this whole concept of a two-way player come from, but that's a ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, man, he's a great two-way player. Well, shit, basketball's only played two ways. Anyhow, so Brooklyn Nets sit at 35-28 after this win. And it was a much-needed win because the way the Knicks are playing right now, look, you want to avoid that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot. You want to avoid that 7, 8, 9, 10 spot. Currently, the Brooklyn Nets sit at number 6. Speaking of the Knicks, they won 7 games in a row. They beat the Miami Heat last night in a thriller, and that game turned out to be far more interesting than I anticipated. Now, that same New York Knicks team who beat the Boston Celtics last Tuesday gone is going to travel to Boston on Sunday, and that's a nationally televised game. That's going to be a big game for both teams. That's going to be a big game for both teams. Knicks won 7 in a row. Boston lost last 3 out of 4. So when you factor all that in, that's going to be a good game. Look, these games that's coming up over the next month is going to be some really exciting basketball. But one thing I want to address, and I'm going to talk about another video, and I might bring in Two Raw on this, right? Why are teams blowing these big-ass leads? These teams are being up by 28, 30. Hell, Wizards, like I said before, early in the stream, Wizards up by as much as 36 one time. That happened last year, or it was the year before, but I think it was last year where the Wizards were up by 36 on the Clippers. They let the Clippers come back and win. You had this year alone, right? Matter of fact, just this last week, you had Dallas being up by 27 on the Lakers. Lakers come back and win this game. Now, last night, Brooklyn being down by 28 to the Boston Celtics. They come back and win. What's up with these teams blowing these big-ass leads? Do they run out of gas? Do they take their foot off the gas? Or does the other team identify something and they was able to exploit it, and the team that was up big never adjusted? I mean, what is the reason why these teams are blowing these big-ass freaking leads? Hell, Sacramento almost blew a double-digit lead late. And if it weren't for the bumbling idiocy of Tyronn Poole, the Clippers probably could have pulled that game out last night. I don't know if it's a lack of execution. I don't know if it's of a collection of star players and role players taking bad shots. I don't know if it's coaching. What the devil is this thing all about where you can have a 30-point lead and still lose the damn game? Wow. Yep. I agree, Ted Cox. Yep, they definitely did do that. right? So this was a bad loss by the Boston Celtics, man. Bad loss. So they get a chance to right this ship on Sunday night against the New York Knicks. That's gonna be another good game, man. These games gonna be exciting over this last month. You know, you got a lot of intrigue right now within the NBA. Teams is fighting for uh playoff spots. You got the teams that's in the top six trying to avoid falling in the play-in, and then you got teams that's outside of it trying to get into the play-in game, and then you got teams that's in the play-in scenario trying to keep their head above water and not fall out of the play-in scenario. So that leads to a lot of exciting basketball over this last month of the season, whatever like that, right? So stay tuned on this network, right? Because we going to cook on a lot of basketball over this next month, and then we'll shift our attention to baseball eventually, right? But good win by the Brooklyn Nets. Good win by the Brooklyn Nets. And salute to Mikal Bridges for keeping in the buck consistently all the time. Not only he's just playing great defense, but now he's not under the shadow of Devin Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, right? Mikal Bridges can go somewhere, and now he has the opportunity to flourish. And that's what he's doing right now. So salute to Mikal Bridges, man, a future all-star in the making on the Brooklyn Nets. That's right. I'm calling my shot. Next year, Mikal Bridges is going to be an all-star. He's going to be an all-star next year. Because not only he's scoring the basketball, I wish he would do it a little bit more consistently, right? You need to get up there average between 25 and 30 points. But you can't deny what he has done ever since he's been on the Brooklyn Nets. Cam Johnson, another guy I really like, a guy who can score the basketball in bunches. I like him too. So they got Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, another guy who can play defense on the wing. Not really that good of a scorer, but a guy who can really play defense on the wing. And look, man, if Jacque Vaughn can keep this together after they fired Steve Nash, after they traded away Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, right? Ben Simmons, being Ben Simmons, right? You know, instead of, being a professional basketball player, he wants to be a fashionista, and he wants to malinger his way around the NBA, right? Because last time I checked, when you get hit across the face, that means you should have an injury around your nose or around your facial area, not around your knee. So I just think the Brooklyn Nets had enough of Ben Simmons, and they just keep his ass under wraps, right? So you guys let me know what y'all think about what happened last night between the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. Once again, the Brooklyn Nets came back down from 28 points to beat the Boston Celtics 115-105. Now, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. Last but definitely not least, shouts out to the mighty Lions Den basketball community. This your man. Scream at me. Hey!